Hi there, and welcome to TechBlower. Here I have the iPhone 12 Pro 256GB in Pacific Blue, which you can't really see here, but it is, trust me. I've just got it out of the box and I haven't even turned it on yet. I want to help you set up your own iPhone 12 by showing you step by step how to do it. This is quite a long video, so I've time-coded it in the description, so it should be easy for you to jump to the specific section you need. The first thing you have to do is, of course, to turn the phone on. We just have to hold the power button on the right-hand side for a few seconds until the Apple logo appears. Then the phone will start up and we'll wait for the first setup screen to appear. And there we got it. Hello! To start the setup process, you need to swipe up from the bottom of the screen as instructed on the screen. Here you should select the language you want the phone to be presented in. We get quite an extensive list of languages, but unfortunately my language Icelandic is not one of them, so I select English here. Next up, you should select your country or region. And on the top here, your country might even be automatically selected, as it is in my case. But if it's not, you can scroll down the list of countries and find the country you live in and tap that. In my case, I simply click Iceland at the top here to continue, and the phone will take a short while to register that. Now we are presented with the option of Quick Start, where you can bring your old iPhone or iPad near this new iPhone and use that to sign in and make the setup process a little bit simpler. I will show you how to do this, but first I'm going to show you how to set things up manually. You can check the timecode in the description if you want to jump straight to the Quick Start part. So here we click the Setup Manually option. Now we are presented with the most common written and spoken languages for your selected country to be used for your keyboard and dictation. Unfortunately, dictation is not available in Icelandic, so English is the option for me here. If you're not satisfied with these pre-selected settings, we can click the Customize Settings option down here. There we can add preferred and keyboard languages. So if we click the Add Language option, we get a list of all the available languages that we can choose from. In my case, I'm quite satisfied with the pre-selected options, so I simply go back here. We're back to this screen and we can then click the Continue button. Next step is to connect to your Wi-Fi network. We need to do that since part of the setup process is to log in to your Apple account, and for that we need the internet connection. So here we tap the name of our Wi-Fi network, and then you need to provide the password for your network. When you've entered your Wi-Fi password, you can either click the Join button up here or simply click the Join button down here on the keyboard. Then we wait for the Wi-Fi to connect successfully. And when we see the blue tick in front of our Wi-Fi connection, it has successfully connected. And we can then click the next button up here to continue. Now the phone will take some time to go through the activation process. Let's speed things up a little bit here. When the phone has been activated, we get some information about data and privacy. For example, how and when Apple collects private information only when needed to protect your privacy. If you're curious, you can click the Learn More option to get more details about this, but you probably just want to continue the setup process by clicking the Continue button. Next up, you're offered to set up Face ID, which uses your face to unlock your iPhone and is also used as an authentication method to log into different apps. You can of course set it up later by clicking the option at the bottom, and you can also get more information about Face ID and privacy by clicking the option here. But let's set up Face ID, and hopefully it works despite the tripod and camera in the way. So we click Continue here. First we get instructions that inform us how to set up Face ID successfully. You should simply roll your head in a circle and see that it catches your whole face. So let's get to it. Okay, we did it. First scan complete, so we click Continue to do the second scan. And the second scan finally completed. So Face ID has been successfully set up. I had some difficulties here with the tripod and the camera in the way, but you won't have that issue. So let's tap Continue to continue. Here you should set up your passcode. You can set a 6-digit passcode as suggested here, but you can also tap the passcode options and select a different option. You can use custom alphanumeric code, custom numeric code, or a 4-digit numeric code. Let's simplify the process here and use the 4-digit passcode. And let's do something really simple here and use 1, 2, 3, 4. You should of course not use this simple passcode, since it's really easy to guess and the phone even asks you if you're sure you want to use it. In this case, we simply click Use Anyway. Then we should enter the same passcode again to confirm it. It takes the phone some time to verify that. Now we get the Apps and Data screen, where we can choose to restore from iCloud backup, restore from Mac or PC, transfer directly from iPhone, move data from an Android phone, or we can simply skip transferring any apps or data. Since we are going to set this up as a new phone, we click the option Don't transfer apps and data. Next step is to sign in with your Apple ID. If you don't already have an Apple ID, you can tap the Forget Password or Don't Have an Apple ID option to create one. To continue here, you simply enter your Apple ID and tap the Next button. Then you of course have to enter the password for your Apple ID, and then you can tap the Next button to continue. If you have two-factor authentication on your Apple account, you have to verify your sign-in on another Apple device that you own. In my case, the verification code was sent to my iPhone X, and then I entered that code into the dialog on the iPhone 12 Pro. When the phone has verified the code you entered, you get the terms and conditions. If you're interested, you can of course read through the terms and conditions, but here you simply need to tap the Agree button at the bottom. At this point, the phone will take some time to set up your Apple ID, so let's speed things up a little bit. After the Apple ID setup, you will get some information on how to keep your iPhone up to date in regard to software updates. We can simply click Continue here. Next up is Location Services. Here you get the option to enable location services, and I would think most of you want to do that since many apps rely on location services to work, such as Workout, Weather, and many other apps. So here you can enable location services, as well as getting more information about it. And you can also choose to disable location services. In my case, I'm going to tap Enable Location Services. Then we get the option to set up Apple Pay. For this manual setup, I'm going to skip this step, since the process can differ somewhat between countries and banks. But I will show you how to do this when I go through the setup with iCloud Backup. So if you're going to set up Apple Pay, you would click Continue here. But for now, I'm going to tap the Setup Later in the Wallet app. Now we get some information about screen time. That is a feature that you can enable to get reports on how much you use each app. And you can also use this to set limits on how long you can use a specific app. We can set this up later in the settings, or we can tap the Continue button to enable it. So let's do that. This next screen is about usage analytics for your phone. You can decide to share your usage analytics with Apple to help them improve their operating system and software. But you can of course also choose not to. You can get some more information about this feature by clicking the top link here. Click the Share with Apple to enable it, or simply click Don't Share to disable it. In my case, I will enable this feature by clicking the Share with Apple button. This next screen is quite similar to the previous one, but now it concerns third-party developers and their apps. So if an app crashes, we can send analytics to the developer to help him figure out what went wrong and fix it. Since I'm a developer myself, I think this is really useful, and I'm sure it will help the developers make their apps even better. So you can get more information about this feature by clicking here. You can tap the Share with App Developers to enable this feature, or tap the Don't Share option to disable it. In my case, I'm going to tap the Share with App Developers. Next up is True Tone Display. This feature helps the phone keep the screen brightness and color profile as matching to your surroundings as possible. The True Tone Display is already enabled, but we can tap and hold this button to see how it looks without this feature. But since I'm in a really bright environment, there isn't actually any difference. You don't have any option here to disable this feature, but you can from the settings on your phone. So here we simply click the Continue button to continue. In this next screen, we can choose the appearance. We can choose the light mode that I'm currently using here, or switch to the dark mode that changes things to more darker colors. I really like the dark mode, especially at night, since then it's not that bright to look at. But since the light mode records better on video, I will keep the light mode here for the sake of this tutorial. So now we simply click the continue button. Now we have the display zoom feature. This feature allows you to have the standard look and feel on the screen, or the zoomed option that makes text and controls larger on the screen. We can always change this option afterwards in the settings, so here I choose the standard view and tap continue. That was actually the last step of the manual setup of the iPhone. And now we have the welcome to iPhone on the screen. And we can simply swipe up from the bottom to unlock the phone for the first time. As you can see on the screen, I haven't inserted my SIM card into the phone since I just unboxed it. It's still in my iPhone X. But to open the iPhone again, we simply swipe up from the bottom and Face ID will recognize my face and unlock the iPhone. When unlocking the iPhone for the first time and navigating around, you might get some pop-ups informing you about some things, like I'm getting here about Apple Music. After this manual setup, we have all the standard Apple apps, and when we swipe to the app library for the first time, we get some information about that. And we also get information about the widgets when we swipe for the first time all the way to the left. So the iPhone is now successfully set up and we can simply start using it. We now know how to set up the iPhone, but how do we reset the phone if we want to erase everything from it? Let's go through that step by step. Before you start resetting your phone, you have to make sure that the Find My feature is disabled, especially if someone else is going to use the phone with a different Apple ID. If the Find My feature is enabled when you reset your phone, you're required to log in with that Apple ID when you set up the phone again. So we go into Settings, tap your Apple account bar at the top, and then we find and tap the Find My option. Then you click the Find My iPhone option at the top, and then uncheck the Find My iPhone feature. In order to disable the feature, you have to enter the password for your Apple ID. So let's do that, and then tap the Turn Off button. Now we can go back here, and then down to General, and scroll all the way down to the bottom and tap the Reset option. In here, we then select Erase All Content and Settings. Since I just set up the phone, the iPhone is complaining that it hasn't finished setting everything up yet. But since we don't have anything to keep in the setup of the phone, we can simply tap the Erase Now button. Now we have to enter our passcode to confirm the reset. And we also have to confirm that we really want to erase iPhone. So we tap that. We have to confirm that again, just to make sure we are sure we want to do this. Now the iPhone will erase all content and settings from the phone and then restart itself. After the restart, we get the initial welcome screen again and the iPhone is ready to be set up again. So we've both gone through how to set the phone up manually and how to reset the phone. Let's go through how we set the iPhone up using the Quick Start and iCloud Backup. So we of course have to turn the phone on first, but it was already turned on this time around. We are presented with the welcome screen and we simply have to swipe up to start the setup process. As with the manual setup, we have to start by selecting the language we want to use on the phone. And we can scroll down to find our preferred language, and I will select English, since Icelandic is not available here. Next up, we have to select our country and region. And Iceland is already correctly pre-selected for me. But you can scroll down the long list and select another country or region if the pre-selected one is not correct. So here we simply tap Iceland. Now we get the quick start screen, and here we have to bring an iOS device close by that is running iOS 11 or later and has Bluetooth turned on. So let's bring my iPhone X into the game. Then a screen should pop up on that device that says that you can use this device to set up your new iPhone using the same Apple ID as is on that device. We simply have to click Continue in that dialog. On the iPhone 12 Pro, we now get a fancy QR code, similar to the one you would get when setting up an Apple Watch, we have to align this QR code in the circle on the other device, in my case the iPhone 10. So let's scan the code. Sorry about the iPhone 10 going off screen for this action. When the iPhone 10 has recognized the code, it sends some data over to the iPhone 12 Pro via Bluetooth to initialize the setup. So now we can put the other iOS device down and continue the setup on the iPhone 12 Pro. Now we have to enter the same passcode as on the other device we used to initialize the setup with. So when we enter the passcode, the setup will continue. In this next screen, we have the option to transfer the data from the iPhone we used to initialize the setup. But as you can see, it is estimated to take 1 hour and 45 minutes. That is a really long time. Fortunately, we have another option as well, download from iCloud. That is using a backup of the other iPhone to set up the new one. I've already recently backed up my iPhone 10, and I really recommend that you do that since this is a much quicker way to set up your new iPhone. You can choose other data transfer options here, for example transferring data from a Mac or a PC, from an Android phone, but in this case we are simply going to use the iCloud backup option. In this screen here, I can choose the backup I want to use, and as you can see, I backed up my iPhone 10 an hour ago, so quite a recent backup. You even get the option here to take a backup now, which is really nice if you realize that you don't have a recent backup of your previous iPhone. You can select your most recent backup here, or you can tap the bottom option to select another backup you have. In my case, I'm going to use my recent backup, so I tap that. Now you get the terms and conditions that you can of course scroll through and read if you want for your own pleasure. You have to click agree here to continue and then click agree again to confirm. The next screen is just some information on how you can keep your iPhone software and apps up to date. So we simply click continue here. Next up is the location services. Even though we are restoring from a backup, we still have to decide whether we want location services to be enabled or not. In my case, I'm going to enable that. Now, to set up Apple Pay, you click continue here. As part of my iCloud backup, I have 3 cards in Apple Pay. So here I get the option to verify these cards and add them to the wallet of this new iPhone. Here I also get the option to add additional cards, but let's simply go through the process with these cards, even though it might differ a little bit between countries and banks. So we simply click continue here. Here you have to enter the security code or the CVC number for the card and then click the next button to continue. The iPhone will then contact the services of your bank to verify that all the details are correct, and you also have to agree to the bank's terms and conditions to continue. As you can see, these terms and conditions are not in English, they're in Icelandic, since my bank is situated in Iceland. I simply click agree to continue here. In my case, I also received a verification code from my bank that I had to enter at a later stage to verify my cards, but that might differ for your bank. For all the cards, I had to repeat these steps, so let's fast forward through that. If you have an Apple Watch paired to your previous iPhone, it will be part of the backup, and you'll be offered to pair your Apple Watch to your new iPhone. But you can also choose to set this up later. I will choose to continue here to pair my Apple Watch to my new iPhone 12 Pro. Now you get the option to share operating system and app analytics with Apple to help them improve their systems. This time around I will not do that and tap the Don't Share option. Next up, you need to enter your Apple ID password to be able to download all the purchases you made in the iTunes and App Store. So let's do that and click the next button. If your Apple ID uses two-factor authentication, you now have to enter a verification code that you receive on one of your other Apple devices. In my case, I received it on my iPhone 10. So let's enter the verification code on the iPhone 12 Pro. Now the iPhone will restore all your settings, photos, apps and more from your iCloud backup, and this part might take a while. So now you can just relax and wait for the iPhone to finalize the restore. About 9 minutes later, the iPhone finished the restore process, and we now see the Apple logo, and the iPhone is now finalizing the setup and will restart. When the iPhone has restarted, we get the hello screen, and there we simply swipe up to continue. Then we are presented with a screen that says that the restore is now complete, but apps will still need to be downloaded in the background. You can also see that the dark mode is enabled now, since my backed up iPhone X was using the dark mode appearance. So the only option now is to click the continue button. Next up, we get the option to help improve Siri and Dictation by sharing some parts of our Siri dictations. You can choose to share audio recordings, but I'm not so keen on doing that, so I'll choose not to. Now we get the Welcome to iPhone screen, which indicates that we now can start using the phone by swiping up from the bottom. I haven't inserted my SIM card yet, so I get this little message that the iPhone did not detect any SIM card in the phone. You can see that I got my home screen set up as I left it on my iPhone X, but many of the apps are still downloading. So now you can start using the phone and the remaining apps will continue to download in the background. I really hope this iPhone 12 Pro setup video was useful for you. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. See you in my next video.